and I'm going live, and then I'll bring you in, and I'm going to go check us on Facebook. There we go. We're going live on Facebook. This is good. This is good. All mic settings look good. And see how we're doing on YouTube. Yeah, we got people on YouTube already. They're waiting on us. All right, YouTube people, I want to make sure that you can hear me and hear my guest. Guest, could you say hello?
Hello.
Thank you. It's going to take about 30 seconds. I think they'll get it. I see Low Key, DC 420, LA. Stock Mom. Stock Mom's in the house. How you doing, Stock Mom? They're having a good conversation in here already. Did you guys hear us? We hear you. Low Key says they hear us. This is perfect. Okay, guys. My name is Tim Black. Tim Black. Wow. My name is Tim Black. I want to welcome you all to the Tim Black at Night show. This is a special edition because I have an opportunity to bring on someone who's been on my show before, had opportunity to meet her in person, and we had a great conversation. I shared that on this channel. She's running for Senate in the big-hearted state of West Virginia, folks. Give it up for my friend and yours, Paula Swearengin.
Hello.
All right.
How we doing?
All right. We're doing great. Paula, how you doing, sister?
I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. I'm really, really busy, but things are going really well.
Yeah, I imagine right now it's kind of like crunch time for you.
Yeah, we got about 11 weeks till primary time. The primary is on May 8th.
May 8th. Well, I want to first thank you for taking time out your busy schedule to sit down with us for a moment and talk about your campaign and talk about what's going on. How are things going on the grassroots in West Virginia?
You know, it's surprisingly really well. Not only have we had national endorsements, we've had people all over the country, actually all over the world support the campaign, but we have thousands of West Virginians that have signed up to volunteer in all 55 counties in West Virginia. People have donated, and I'm so proud because we have run on individual donations. We've garnered about $200,000, which is not like the 4.5 million that my opponent has, but he has only got 2% in individual donations and people funded donations, and less than that, and that 2% come from West Virginia. So, he's corporate funded and he has a lot of money, but I tell you what, West Virginia is really showing face right now in a lot of ways. We're showing that we're united, and I can't tell you how proud I am of my state right now.
That is amazing. And 55 counties. You said volunteers in 55 counties.
Yes, sir.
That is very impressive, And I've met a lot of candidates. A lot of candidates have come through this channel, Paula, and that sounds really great. What have you been doing to get that word out like that?
Well, it's been a lot of ways. I mean, we've had the support of Justice Democrats, brand new Congress. We got an endorsement today from the people of Bernie. All of us, all kinds of national endorsements. And with the support, we started out with brand new Congress and Justice Democrats, and they're still supporting the campaign. But we have moved on now to where, I have like 2 co-captains on as my campaign management team, 2 West Virginians. And it's been grassroots with them too. They've been grassroots organizers across the state, Walt Sarkis and Brandy Miller, and they've been absolutely amazing with the campaign. We've been campaigning since last May, and it's been a national and a local effort. And that's how we've done it, is that we just been out all over the state, finding out what was going on, and just volunteers are stepping up to help us. And it's been an amazing experience. I've been fighting for this state for years. And I wanted to see the unity and the solidarity and the power building. And not only with this campaign, like I said, there's so many amazing things going on in this state. West Virginians, I think that we've had like this national stigma that, we're backward. But if you look at the teachers right now and the public employees, all 55 counties are shut down today and tomorrow because the teachers are on strike. They want PEIA benefits, and they want a living wage. And the Capitol has been full. The fire marshal almost shut down the Capitol today because there was so many people there. I was out last Saturday with our educators and public employees. I have never in my life seen such a labor movement. You look at the miners of Blair Mountain, Joe Hill, Mother Jones. I've been screaming that, West Virginia needs to unite, and that shouldn't end in this generation. And the world needs to look at West Virginia right now because these people are doing it. I've never seen so much solidarity in my life.
That does sound amazing, and the fact that you're getting such a great response from the people, and you focused on the issues that matter to people in West Virginia. I gotta say, I hear people making these comments about West Virginia. You decided to run, and I know you knew it wasn't going to be easy. What drove you to do that?
Well, I'm a coal miner's daughter and granddaughter, and I have fought for clean water, clean air, and prosperity for West Virginians for years. And what started that path is me being a coal miner's daughter. When I was little, I drank acid mine drainage. I went hungry when my stepdad got laid off in the coal mines. I thought my hair was red till I was 12 years old because of the polluted water. And my family had to move to North Carolina. And a lot of people have to leave here because there's no opportunities. When my grandpa got sick with black lung, I came back. And through that path, I watched my grandpa suffocate to death with black lung disease. I buried my daddy at 54 years old with cancer and black lung. Most of my uncles have black lung. And my stepdad, he has heart disease. He has black lung. Then I started seeing my neighbors' kids get cancer. And I'm a mom. So I decided to fight back. And so, I've worked for years trying to bring prosperity to this state. And try to, it's a fight for survival for us here because we don't have any type of economic opportunities either. And we've dealt with a singular industry-based economy, and our leaders have not had no vision or no outlook for a diverse and fair economic infrastructure. And I think my awakening was when Jim Justice became our governor. He's putting silica dust in my kids' lungs every day. 3 miles from my house from a mountaintop removal site. He's corrupt. He doesn't pay his bills. He owes an enormous mountain mine fines. Joe Manchin, my opponent, I chased him at a town hall, and I thought one more time I would ask him after all the years that I've asked him to help us. I went to this town hall and I told him, about my family again, told him we needed clean water, clean air. We needed clean and safe jobs, and he said we would have to agree to disagree.
What?
And he actually challenged the people here. If we didn't like it, we could primary him, and we could get rid of him. So we are. We are.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I don't have my clap button right now, but I'm clapping on the inside, Paula. I really am. Paula, when you describe, first of all, I definitely want to give you my condolence and my sincerest thoughts about, gosh, the suffering and the sadness, the grief that you described as so many family members being so hurt, and not just family members, but people in general in West Virginia who suffer from this environment, who suffer from the environmental, I say, travesty of what they've been doing, polluting the water in West Virginia. But I'm thinking that's coal related, right?
Well, not only that, it's been different sources. I've been around the state, and we have the gas industry that's here. And what you've seen is just like with the coal industry, you've seen trillions of dollars go out of the state for coal, but you've never seen no kickbacks in the communities. And some of the people here live in impoverished conditions comparable to a third world country. There's a clear difference, and this is one thing that our incumbents have not understood, and it's because of their pocketbooks, because they're bought and paid for by these industries. There's a clear difference between being a friend of the industry and being a friend of a coal miner. Mm-hmm. And these coal miners struggle for jobs. They have a right to come home to a clean glass of water. There's a town here called Minden, West Virginia, and it's a small populated area, and they have PCBs in the soil because of a company called Schaefer. And they put the PCBs in barrels in abandoned coal mines. It's all over the community. There was a flood in 2001. They're right over the New River, so the PCBs have went down into the New River. That's a big part of our tourism. For 30 years, then people have tried to get out of there. Finally, our governor signed signed off to make sure there was a Superfund site a couple of weeks ago. But 30 years, why did it take so long? And what we're seeing with the gas industry is they're trying to take people's property with co-tenancy is what they're calling it, force pooling, whatever they want to call it. The government is allowing these companies to take these people's property for corporate profit. And there's so many things that could happen for West Virginia. And one of the biggest problems is if we have been dependent on a singular industry-based economy. It's went from coal, now they're working on gas. When there's so many possibilities, we have opportunities for renewables. We can manufacture those in West Virginia. We have the potential for hydropower. We could put hemp on mountaintop removal sites. If we fully legalize cannabis, we could see economic growth within 6 to 8 months. The possibilities are endless, but we have to have good roads. We have to have good schools, and we have to have a clean environment. So companies like Amazon and Facebook and other, and manufacturing want to come to West Virginia and settle here. And it's a disgrace that we can't even pay our educators enough, that they're having to go out of state to make a living wage. $8, I think they said 2% is what they've offered them. So that's going to give them an $8. And then they don't have adequate insurance. Just imagine if West Virginia implemented a health care plan, a single payer plan, a universal health care plan on a state level. We've gotten national coverage because of all the bad things that happen in West Virginia. And I really want for once for us to get national coverage because of the good things that we're doing, and it's beginning. The labor movements are beginning again. Like I said, I'm so proud of everybody, and people are waking up to these corporate incumbents, and they're realizing that they're not serving them. And I think that you go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask because you when you started off, you were talking about how you had to chase Joe Manchin at a town hall meeting, I think it was.
Yes.
I'm just imagining that. So he didn't want to answer questions, and any pushback he got to his taking corporate bribes, let's just call it what they are, they're bribes.
Yeah.
He said he challenged anybody, well, come and do my job then. If you think you can do it better, come on. Is that the idea?
Yeah. And the thing about it is we're waking up in this country. And one thing that we need the most is working class people representing the working class. We don't need leaders. We need people servants. This nation was built by the people, for the people, and of the people. And throughout my path, traveling across the state, looking at the addiction epidemic, looking at the poverty, going into areas like Ritchie County where there's fracking and people are concerned and feel like they haven't been heard. In the Eastern Panhandle where people feel like they haven't been heard. There's all these systemic problems. And I've not went to go and tell people what I'm going to do for them because they already know I've been fighting for this state for years. I want to be a vessel. I want to be a voice for the people in Washington. I want my state, my entire state, and the people to have a voice in Washington. We've seen so many people step on a local to federal level here in West Virginia. Ordinary people, and even across the country, we've seen it, like with the Justice Democrats and brand new Congress candidates. But here you've seen it so much that they're, like Lisa Lucas, you've seen what they did to her. I don't know if you've seen where it went viral, where she was calling out the gas companies.
I did see that.
She's a wonderful system candidate of mine. I've been into Ritchie County twice trying to highlight the issues with reporters, national reporters, because those people have not been heard. If our incumbents don't realize, they need to wake up, because if they can't do their job, it ain't only Joe Manchin. We're going to do their job for them, because it's past time for West Virginia to invest in themselves, and we need a good economic infrastructure, a good, safe economic infrastructure. But nobody in this great country should have to beg for something so basic as a clean glass of water.
I agree with you. I agree with you totally, Paula. And you make so many great points. But what I want to try to do now is I want to back up and just hit these points that you've made, because all of it sounds great, but I want people to really get a feel for what you're talking about. So let's talk about, everyone's talking about the opiate situation. Let's start there. What is your plan? What have you seen in West Virginia as far as the opiates, and what do you think would help solve that problem?
I've actually spent a lot of time with the people in the addiction community, because when I first started this, I didn't feel like I knew enough. And what I'm hearing from people in the addiction community is we don't have enough treatment programs, long-term peer recovery treatment programs. There's Suboxone and Methadone. Mm-hmm. They're good temporary solutions, but you're replacing one drug with another. And we haven't, the pill mills here. There's a small town that population, Kermit, West Virginia, 983, and they shipped over a couple million pills into one pharmacy in that community. And you look at the funders to the incumbents here, they're all in bed with big pharma. And so they've allowed it to happen. And I'm hearing from people in the addiction community that they do not have access to these long-term peer recovery programs. And the funding is not going into those programs. They're going into alternate drugs that's going back into big pharma.
Gotcha.
So this money that's been coming in needs to go into true recovery. And we need to get rid of the stigma behind the addiction epidemic. I know 80 and 90-year-old women that are addicted to opioids because they trusted their medical providers. This has affected every walk of life. And we have one of the biggest addiction epidemics in this state right now. And to fight the war on drugs, we have to fight the war on our people. And we have to get all of this money out of big pharma and give it to the people that deserve it, that they're trying to get their lives back because they have been affected by this crisis.
I love it. And when I heard that story last year, I think that's when it went viral, sort of, about the number of pills that were being dumped into, that small town. And I just couldn't believe it, Paula. It always stuck with me. I don't know where you begin. I guess maybe getting money out of politics, huh?
Well, we definitely need to overturn Citizens United. Yeah. But we need to sue these pharmaceutical companies, too, for shipping all these pills in here. Yes. And make sure these medical providers are responsible for what they did. Some of them got arrested, like I said, but the fight begins, too, by making sure that these people have a path to recovery. Yeah. They got to have a path to recovery.
Yeah, even if you lock up the big pharmaceuticals or the doctors who are writing bogus prescriptions or whatever, the people still have addictions. So You're absolutely right. You still got to deal with that part.
Right. And that's what stop the pills from coming in here, give people access to, adequate pain management too, and get rid of the incumbents that are in bed with big pharma.
Wow. And
something else that has bothered me so much the past couple of days, and this is off the addiction epidemic, but I want to say it before we end. I am the only senatorial candidate that has said anything to help our teachers and state workers right now. I know that it's state legislation and we're federal candidates, but where's Joe Manchin? Where's Shelley Moore Capito? Where's any of them standing up for our educators right now? Because they're not. And I think that's a disgrace too.
Yeah, I was definitely going to go to education, and we'll just go there now, because I understand that West Virginia has problems with how the schools perform. That's also an issue. And when we look at education, not only for the pay for the teachers' salaries, but what's going on with the schooling? Are the schools getting the money? Are we getting the right quality of teachers? What's your take on, of course, I think all teachers should be paid more for what they do. I think teachers are grossly underpaid across the country, but particularly in West Virginia. But what's your take on the performance level of the schools themselves?
Well, I'm a mom of four, and what I have seen, with the educators in our state, we have some of the best in the world. Definitely they're underpaid, but also they don't have the resources that they need in the schools. They don't have enough paper, ink, pencils. Most of these teachers we have had, and you see here recently what's going on. These are poor communities. And children that live in poorer communities don't have the same opportunities as children living in wealthier communities because of the tax base.
Paula, say that one more time, sister. I just love hearing somebody else say that, because I say that about poor neighborhoods in the inner city just as well. What'd you say about poor communities?
Poor communities don't have the resources as wealthier communities because of the tax base.
Thank you, Paula.
And people don't know what these teachers do. I mean, they make sure these kids have food when they go home. They pack backpacks. We've all worked as communities in our communities to make sure that children have food, in the summer, on the weekends, because, they don't have it at home. And what I've seen come out of our educators, our state workers, and our communities and our state is so many people step up and make sure, while the teachers were striking, that these kids would have food for 2 days. Wow. And it's a shame. And we don't even have adequate sewage systems in this state. We still have sewage running into the creeks here. We don't have broadband access. You think about the remote jobs that we could have, and you talk about our educational system. Our children have iPads that they take home that they have to learn on. And a lot of these children don't have access to broadband when they go home to even do their homework. So we need that across our state, but we also need clean water and sewage systems.
Absolutely. Paula, I agree with you 100%. I think it's a psychological fact, right? They did these studies, Paula, where when people are worried about the basic necessities, it's hard for them to focus on other things, even something as important as education, because you're wondering where the food's going to come from, how are you going to keep a roof over here. All of the stress if the parents are stressed out, the kids are stressed out. If the kids are stressed out, how can they learn as well as kids who are living with, in better situations? So I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah. And these kids, sometimes these kids, the only meal they're getting is the meals that they get in school and what people are sending home with them. And it's our educators. They're making sure that they have a box of macaroni and cheese and a juice box, and maybe share with their younger brother or sister that's sitting at home and probably may have not had a meal all day. All of these problems are systemic, and they happen to poor people and poor communities. And it's been a trickle down effect, even with the addiction epidemic. When people don't have no hope, they turn to drugs.
I love it.
And that's, the most important things that we need in this state right now that I see. We need to combat the addiction epidemic. We need to make sure that people have access to educational opportunities, and we fund our teachers and our schools and our public employees well. We need a diverse economic infrastructure, and people need access to health care. This is one of the sickest and poorest states in the nation. And the best thing that this country can do for this state, since it's been powered by the blood of our people, every time you turn your light switch on, it's been powered by the blood of West Virginians. We have sacrificed so much to power this nation that the people here deserve health care, and we deserve more than what we have gotten. And it's been happening for decades. It didn't happen overnight. But like I said, what you're seeing coming out of this state now is people are fighting back, and they're waking up.
So what has been Joe Manchin's response to the health care of an opportunity or possibility of some type of universal health care or some type of Medicare for all? Has he pushed back, or has he been somewhat receptive?
He's talked about, and I've heard him talk about some language about, defunding CHIP, but he hasn't stood up, just like when, with the tax reform and those kinds of things. The last time I seen him and asked him if he had looked at the Medicare for All bill, he told me he hadn't even read it. So, you're not even looking at legislation to make sure that, all Americans have access to health care, but he's a representative for one of the sickest and poorest states in the nation, and he's not even looking at a bill for universal health care. And you look at it, that's going to help our state so much too, because small businesses are struggling, and that ties into tourism. Tourism is one of our biggest industries, and small businesses need to survive. And if the small businesses here did not have to worry about paying high premiums for health care to provide for their employees, then that would help our state so much.
I agree with you. I I'm just kind of like surprised that someone like that who seems like his focus hasn't necessarily been those of the people. I'm wondering who his top donors are. Like, who gives most to the Joe Manchin campaign? I don't know if you know that, but off the top of your head, you know who's been funding Mr. Manchin?
The coal industry and Mylan Pharmaceuticals and the pharmaceutical company, and his daughter's the CEO of Mylan. So, figure it out yourself.
Wow.
And now the gas industry is giving him a big chunk. $4.5 million.
I hear you. I just, this is one of the reasons why I had to have you back on, Paula, because I'm so in touch with the issues that affect West Virginia. I live in Maryland. I'm not that far from you. I've been to West Virginia. We talked about poverty. We talked about opiates. We talked about education. I guess we're talking about jobs and healthcare. I think we kind of hit everything. But let's go back to jobs. You say they need to diversify industries, and it seems like they just focus on so it was coal, now it's gas. But like you say, they need to kind of spread that out and get some tech companies in, for instance, to go along with the gas and not just be so beholden to one industry.
When we're beholden to these industries and they have control, the people have not had any kind of water protections. They've not had any protections to their air. When they have the incumbents here that are beholden to them, then they have more control over the people. And that's why the pharmaceuticals are here too. And I think that West Virginia's sort of been stigmatized that we have no teeth, no shoes, and no brains. And so we've been considered collateral damage. And even when you look at the water protections, they factor in, how many people live in a community, if they're wealthy or if they're valuable, and that's what's happened to us so much, has happened here is these incumbents have been in bed with these industries. And that's why their vision is funneled to their top pocketbooks, and they're not visionaries for our future.
One of the things about West Virginia that strikes me is that they were so supportive of Bernie Sanders. But then once Bernie was pushed out, I feel pushed out. I say robbed. By the DNC, they got Hillary. West Virginia went with Donald Trump, and I don't think the Russians had anything to do with that. What do you think pushed people away from Hillary and towards Donald Trump?
Well, one thing that happened, I think not as many Democrats went out and voted after what happened with Bernie Sanders, because our super delegates went against the will of the people and they voted for Hillary Clinton. And that's just fact. So I don't think as many Democrats got out and voted. But also when you see the votes for Donald Trump is last summer when the market for coal went down, people were hungry more than what they have been. And they were losing everything that they had. And Donald Trump came in. He was saying he wasn't a polished politician. He promised all these great things, and then we didn't see it happen. So, it's a mere survival here for people is what it is. And you put your faith into whoever makes those promises. But I want people, especially West Virginia, because I'm even looking now, we have some of these corporate incumbents now talking about grassroots campaign. Joe Manchin now sending out emails that he's running a grassroots campaign, and they're talking about this corporate corruption. I beg people to research their candidates, look at their voting history if they've been in office for a long time, look who their donors are, and get behind people that are actually going to serve them. They can promise us all day long, just like Donald Trump did. But at the end of the day, we need real people in office that are going to do the job that these people have not been doing for decades.
Well, you said it, people were hurting. People were looking for an answer about economics, about their finances, about their jobs. Yes. And Trump started talking. And we know Bernie and Trump are totally different, but they were populists. They were talking about these types of issues. So they said, well, hey, we don't have that many options. This guy's talking jobs. This person, right. Hillary's talking this other stuff. She wants to continue what Obama did. Let's take a roll on the guy who's not a politician who says he'll help bring jobs back.
And, Democrat and Republican, we all want to live the American dream. We all want, good paying jobs. We want to go home every day and not have to worry about our families. And, that is not a partisan issue. These are basic human rights. And that's what West Virginians have been deprived of basic human rights. And you see what's happening with Flint and Standing Rock. And it feels like almost that we have laid the platform for generational poverty, cultural genocide. Now is the time. If people look at what's happening in West Virginia, it's our time. We are investing in ourselves. And not only are we going to make sure that we have clean water and clean air, but we're going to make sure that we have economic growth. And we set the platform for the rest of the nation for prosperity, for a change.
I tell you, Paula, I say Joe Manchin, I assume he's been in office for quite some time. Is this his second or his third term? I'm not sure.
This is his first term, I think, as senator, but he's been a secretary of state. He's been our governor. And you look at decades, we have seen high-wage manufacturing jobs and coal jobs evolve into low-wage service jobs since his terms in office. So he's not done anything for us. And that's my biggest fear, too, is he says, win or lose, this is his last time. We look at what happened with Jim Justice. Jim Justice was a Republican 2 months before he ran for office. Then he was a Democrat to win the election, and then he turned over to a Republican. What's stopping Joe Manchin now? And Joe Manchin recruited Jim Justice and campaigned for him. Everybody right now, Jim Justice is the lowest ranking politician in West Virginia right now because of this, what he's done to this state. And they're all in bed together. This good old boy network. Joe Manchin brought Jim Justice. And West Virginia's pissed. We are pissed. We're tired of the corruption.
I think West Virginia needs some changes. They need some new blood. They need people with new ideas, changing the old guard. And I think, Paula, you are speaking that truth to power that just moves people. I know it moves me. It moves my audience. What are some things that maybe I missed talking about that you would like to, mention before we close out?
Oh, well, you've been a great representative for us, and I really appreciate everything that you've done for us. And thanks for giving us a shout out, 11 weeks out of the primary, and, making sure that people know that we're still here. And this is still, one thing too, I'm hearing is, oh, well, she's going to hand over the election to the Republicans. Joe Manchin, we've only seen him work in 2017 and 18 and not side to, as much with the Republicans because of the resistance of West Virginia, not only because of my campaign, which has played a part of it, but it's because West Virginia stood up and pushed him. But like I said, one more time, if we put him in one more term, who's to stop him from being a Republican now? Because he's making all these promises, just like all these candidates have for years and years. We've never, they've not fulfilled those promises. A few votes ain't going to count it no more. We want representatives that are going to represent us 100% of the time.
I got it. I think that West Virginians are waking up to the reality that these people are sellouts. And you're right. And I appreciate the fact that you say, hey, my campaign is instrumental, it's helpful, but it's the people that have, started to push back against this corporate crap that's keeping us stuck at the bottom. And I think that's resonating across the state, and it's actually across the country. I'm seeing a lot of changes across the country in districts, in states, and cities. So, Paula,
this is not like voting for a football team. This is not a game. People are dying here. Children are dying here. Cancer at an alarming rate. This is do or die for us. We don't have no plan B. We don't have any type of hope for a future for West Virginia. And this is not, I don't even label it my campaign. Mm-hmm. You'll see me say Team Paual Jean, because this campaign is led by West Virginians. Like I said, I am just a vessel for the voice of my people. And I'm a mom. So, we're just fighting back. This is West Virginia's campaign.
I love it. I love it. Paula, could you please tell people where to go to get more information, to volunteer, to help out? One thing before that. When you said that the jobs that they were bringing in, I bet they would try to flood you with Uber jobs. if they could, you know? But that doesn't really work in West Virginia. I've seen politicians pretend to be able to say, hey, we brought all these jobs in, but they end up being these jobs that don't have benefits, jobs you can't feed a family off of, with no stability. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, we have Uber here, actually. We do have Uber in West Virginia.
Yeah.
But, our primary base is healthcare and low-wage service jobs. That's what we have. And it's no wonder that, healthcare is thriving because, like I said, we're one of the sickest and poorest states in the nation. But diversity is the key. That, the possibilities are endless. We just have to make sure that West Virginia is welcome to new business, that, we're a state that people want to move here and live here and thrive here. And we want to bring our family members back home. So many people have had to leave this state for a livable wage. We want to bring our family members back home. I had to move away for a while, and so many of my family members are not here, but I hear that from so many people. Families have been divided. This is, my family settled here with the Cherokee Indians. We've been here generation after generation, and that, has been with so many West Virginians, and there's a sense of pride here. The mountains are like a magnet. When you leave, you just want to come back home. I mean, we have so much pride here, and we want our families to be able to stay here. As a mom, my 3 older boys are not home now, and I've fought for years for them to stay. Now I beg them to leave, and I just want to make sure to make this a place, a home for them, not only for my children, but every child in West Virginia. And I want to enjoy my grandchildren in the mountains one day.
Wow. That's amazing. Paula, tell people where to go to contribute to the campaign, and to find out more, to volunteer. The floor is yours, sister.
Okay, so on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, it's Paula Jean 2018. And you can find my website at paulajean2018.com. And if anybody would like to volunteer, you can contact Brandy Miller. She's one of my campaign coordinators. And her email address is Brandy, Brandi, at paulajean2018.com.
I love it. Paual Jean 2018, guys. Go to Paual Jean 2018. Find out more about what Paul is doing, about what, not just what Paul is doing, about what the people of West Virginia are doing and what they're trying to do to get their government back and put it in the hands of the people. Thank you again, Paul.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
All right, bye-bye.
You got it. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate you all. Look, if you're going to give to this show tonight, hold it. Give the money to Paula Jean, paulajean2018.com. Do that and help the people of West Virginia help themselves by taking power back and putting it in the hands of the people. I love you. I see you tomorrow with Freedom Friday, where you get to call up and you get to speak your mind. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, buddy, so much. How'd I do?
You did fantastic, and we are done.